What is whole life discipleship? Well, I have to talk about whole life disciples as people who are learning to follow the way of Jesus in their place and at this time. And the first time I heard someone say whole life discipleship, I thought it was a tautology, which is unnecessary repetition of words like frozen ice. I mean, is there any other kind? If Jesus is Lord of everything, of every place, every time, then how can there be any type of discipleship that does not involve the whole of your life? Seems to be unnecessary words. But maybe I can explain with a story. When I was 21 years old, I was a teacher, a high school teacher. And I would go to school on Monday and I would teach my best, tough lessons, tough kids. And then when I got to Friday night, I'd run a youth group, and then Sunday I would lead some Sunday school. And it's interesting because my church at one time would commission me for my Friday night youth group and also for the Sunday school, but they never once mentioned my Monday to Friday where I was working as a teacher. And I always used to wonder why that was. I thought, does this stuff not really matter? It was like when I was opening the book of the Bible on Sunday, that was sacred. But come Monday, when I teach physical education, that was secular. And it created this impression, this sacred secular divide, that some things matter to God, the religious stuff, where religious professionals run it, and the stuff that's run by everyday Christians in their everyday lives, that really doesn't matter that much. Almost a second-class kind of mission. And this sacred secular divide is so common. You see, I didn't actually realize that when I go to work and serve as before the face of God, that is actually mission in the whole of my life. The way that I mold the culture of the staff room, the way that I speak against injustice. And ultimately, all this comes together in being a messenger of the gospel as people see a life and deeds that match each other. Now, the reality is that across the church today, I think it was Mark Green in the 2010 Cape Town Congress, who said that our typical strategy of mission is to recruit the people of God to join clergy or church paid worker initiatives using some of their leisure time. And this is an absolute squandering of mission potential. So the problem is we put all of our energy and all of our disciple-making emphasis into when they are gathered on Sunday or in church-related programs, in clergy-related initiatives or parachurch groups, and it's almost invisible to us the rest of their life. So how do we address this sacred secular divide, and what is whole life discipleship? Well, as I said, a whole life disciple is someone who's learning to follow the way of Jesus in their place at this time. So let's briefly look at those dimensions. Someone who is learning. Matheteo is the Greek word behind disciple, and it means, again, this teaching-learning relationship, that it actually involves listening to the commands of Christ and following the whole command through the whole word of God, that basically we are a learner first and foremost. So someone who is learning to follow. It's not just concepts down. It involves right belief, right desire, and right action. Head, heart, hands. Christ is the master. He sets the pattern for what a disciple actually looks like. And that's what the word Christian is, little Christ. So the question is, what would Jesus do if he were me? And not just generically me as a 40-something person who's in theological education, who lives in a particular neighborhood, who has certain hobbies. I'm never discipled generically. I'm discipled for my particular context. And that's the next part, someone who's learning to follow the way of Jesus in their particular place. Now, what I mean by place here? Well, I'm talking about our front lines. And these are places or activities where we regularly spend time with those who don't follow Jesus. So it could be where we live, my neighborhood, where I shop even, the cafes that I go to, where I go for my groceries, and the places where I serve or volunteer. All of these places matter to God, and I need the toolkit as a disciple to be able to make sense of that context. So someone who's learning to follow the way of Jesus in their place and at this time. It takes you right from being a child right through to being a retiree. We never retire from serving God. So in every one of life's stations, we need to know, what does it mean to follow the way of Christ in this time? But also the cultural time that we're in. Are we forming people who can make sense of the signs of the times starting on their very street? So So this is what whole life discipleship is about. And I hope you can see that it's what my 21-year-old self needed as a teacher, but it's also what a lot of the people around you need. Not just those who are paid to work by the church or in parachurch, but those who are in their everyday life following Christ in those places. So we need this, and I dare say that the world needs this. Imagine the missional potential if every follower of Christ was trained and equipped to follow Christ 24/7, not just when they're gathered, but also when they're scattered. And this will revolutionize the world for the glory of God.